Every interaction I had with this guy was just him being, for lack of a better phrase, an obtuse idiot. He didn't want to admit he was wrong, and I'm the villain, basically.
Okay.
Okay, when did I call him the villain? A dumb, fucking baseless assumption because I'm the bad guy, because I'm criticizing a thing you like, and you're seeking anything to undermine that criticism. I don't know what gave him that idea. I think Creetosis might have a persecution problem, and he called himself the villain. What do I say in response? You aren't the bad guy. Does it sound like I'm calling him the villain here? You're just a human being. Of course, you want people to believe you're right. People love being right. Here, I even put, if I'm wrong about the Jonathan Franks meme thing being a distraction tactic or poisoning the well of some kind, that's fine. So, why did you put it there? So it seems he hyper-focused on the line I said, there's enough things wrong with Madanin's video that you don't need to be inventing new problems with it. And he responds, I didn't fucking invent problems with his video.
What does Outer Worlds have to do with any of this?
Outer Worlds
I don't know, man. Maybe it's because it's like the spiritual successor to Fallout.
doesn't have anything to do with either video, as neither of us bring it up in our videos.
Oh my god.
It's sort of funny to me. Griffin came so close to actually being right here.
It didn't even exist when John
Maybe he's just playing a fucking random game in the background while he's talking. Whoa!
made his video.
I do want to comment on what he just said there. Vincent's video isn't a stream, it's a scripted video, so you can put anything there. That's kind of why we're commenting on why not use Fallout 3 footage for, like, you're defending Fallout 3. That's the main point we're making. It's weird.
Also,
This is also another problem of Creetosis. He fundamentally misunderstands the point of my video. This comment, checking up on the critics of Fallout 3 and how well their criticism holds up, is a project for me.
again, this is a thing with Griffin, not like it's a difference in content that Griffin doesn't understand, because long form content like this, usually when people are talking about a game like this, they use footage of that game. I mean, just go look at fucking Patrician or whatever the fuck in his like 8 and 12-hour videos on Morrowind and Oblivion. He's gonna have a lot of footage of those games.
This is actually the Discord name Patrician uses in his server. In fact, I was made aware of Creetosis's close to 4-hour video being done on me when someone messaged me on Patrician TV's Discord. And as for my straw man argument, where he talks about the mall rats, I actually ran that past a few people under the research tab in Patrician's Discord. They gave me some advice, and this is actually a suggestion they gave me that I should use a different game's footage, and I chose Outer Worlds. Not because it's the spiritual successor to Fallout, but it's sort of considered the spiritual or successor to Fallout New Vegas, which is common knowledge. But it is beyond any of these people, which is just very comical to me. Their media comprehension ability seems to be almost nil, and they go on and on about this. They talk about this sort of content like there's a rule book for it. I haven't seen this rule book anywhere. Is there a guideline? You have to make your videos like this, this, and this? Or do these guys just think they're so much superior despite not actually going to college or having any formal education and thinking they know what's better just because they have a couple thousand subscribers? I have no fucking clue. They weren't intellectually interested enough or invested enough in this to actually analyze my video to even come up with some decent theories for it. Later on in the video, in a rather mocking manner.
It's not mocking, though.
I have to heavily disagree with the praise for the level of care and craftsmanship that goes into the world design.
Sure, later on I use it as a point of slight mockery, but right now I'm just disagreeing with the point being made, and planting a little flag for people to remember it for later.
Some people like to call this poisoning the well.
Poisoning the well.
Who the Dude, this is literally like... Oh my... Dude.
Or attempting to poison the well is a type
This is infuriatingly autistic. I'll just fucking say that.
of informal fallacy where
I don't know how,
information
though.
about a target is preemptively presented to an audience with the
I mean,
See,
this is
here's
this
the
is the
thing.
same guy. This is the same guy that took issue with Bring Halo Back, misusing the term straw manning.
Wait, he got upset about that?
Yeah,
Because
it
that's
was-
exactly what we're doing here. That's
yeah.
So I'm being an idiot while you're preempting my actual point, where I go on to say, some people like to call this poisoning the well. I just like to call it kicking the can down the road, because it's really more of a neutral and fun way of framing this rhetorical technique. Now, they're sort of right here. I should have said this is an example of some of the mocking that sort of sprinkled in throughout the video that Creetosis made. I really should have pulled a lot more examples because there's a lot in here to establish the point I'm trying to make here. And again, I didn't even call it poisoning the well. I very well could have, as you're about to see.
I still believe most of my points were accurate, even if the arguments made to support them weren't the greatest. And there's so much wrong with John's video that basically warrant a full response and deconstruction. Also, taking it down might have been seen as a win by the people who hate my video simply because it's critical of a popular game or popular YouTuber. We all make mistakes. The best thing is to recognize them, try to improve, and move on, which is what I'm doing here. My entire reasoning for making these responsive videos is because I genuinely believe there to be misinformation, fallacious arguments, and plenty of other issues with these videos, and I feel that warrants a response. That's not meant to be any kind of attack on John, and I'm genuinely not trying to start any kind of drama or dumb bullshit like that, but these videos, simply put, are not good. However, it's not as simple as it being strictly his opinion. He makes arguments as though they're fact, not something he simply feels. The point of his video is to convince the audience that Fallout 3 is better than they think, not to share how he personally feels about the game, and as such, arguments for or against aspects of its quality can be responded to, especially if those arguments are wrong. Despite what some people in the comments seem to think, calling something an opinion is not an impenetrable shield from criticism. With all that out of the way, let's get into this.
In 2008, Fallout 3 came out, and most people seemed to like it. Not everybody, this was a new dev team, new publisher, and the first ever Fallout in 3D, so some stuff had changed, and change is never universally liked. But aggregated reviews of both critics and the public were generally very positive. The game sold well, and 5 DLC packs came out throughout 2009.
It's worth noting that positive reception doesn't necessarily mean the game is good. This was also during a time when perception of Bethesda was really positive too, and you're less likely to see blemishes from something you like. This was partially the case for me. At the time, I was a huge
Bethesda fan, and as recently as 2013, I said that I actually prefer Fallout 3. It was only years later, when I took a deeper look at both Fallout 3 and New Vegas, as well as watching some detailed critiques of them,
that I had realized that not only was New Vegas a lot better than I had realized, but Fallout 3 was also worse.
Rather than having to wait another decade for the next Fallout game, in 2010 Fallout New Vegas came out, which was initially more negatively reviewed than Fallout 3, largely due to the fact that for many people, Fallout NV stopped working was the only quest available, and disappointingly it only had one solution. However, patches and DLC followed, and by the release of 2012's Ultimate Edition, the game was not only a lot more stable, it had also come to be fairly widely considered as a better game than Fallout 3, especially true among older Fallout fans. So we got 2 Fallout games, both generally well regarded with plenty of DLC, within a couple of years of each other, so I'm sure everybody went on to be really pleased that we got to enjoy 2 different games in a franchise we all love. That didn't happen. Instead, something odd happened. It wasn't enough to simply enjoy New Vegas more than Fallout 3, like having a preference for the mechanical or narrative direction it took. No. For some people, if you liked New Vegas, you also had to dislike Fallout 3. You weren't a true Fallout fan unless you thought Fallout 3 was garbage, Bethesda were trash, and Todd Howard was your sworn nemesis. And that's not fair. So I want to examine Fallout 3, because Fallout 3 isn't just not bad, and it's not just good. Fallout 3, despite some issues we'll also be discussing, stands up alongside all the other games, and prepare your angriest comments now, because to my mind, in some ways, I think it's actually the best Fallout game of all.
So already he's poisoning the well and being incredibly reductive about this discussion.
So, Creetosis uses the first minute and 45 seconds of John's video to claim that he is poisoning the well somehow, when Creetosis himself spends almost that same amount of time in his intro to state several unfavorable things he believes to be wrong with John's video to his audience before they can even hear a word of what John is saying in his video. Now, even if these are just Creetosis opinions, they almost certainly are being said as fact. So, at least by his own logic, I can say easily this could be considered poisoning the well, since it matches up pretty well with the explanation of it that I have up on the screen there.
And I don't even need to insult anyone's intelligence by reading it out loud.
Now, how does Creetosis try to make the claim that John is poisoning the well here?
Just about everyone knows of this at this point, but these games were made by two very different developers, and those developers very clearly had different design philosophies, resulting in two very different games. In an ideal world, this would have resulted in two really good games that were simply made differently. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I'm confident in saying that by the end of this video, I can not only prove that most of John's defenses don't stand up to scrutiny, but also that as far as the writing, plot, story, and world building goes, this game is a disaster.
John is admitting that both Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3 are equally good in different ways.
Here's the thing. You can point out the bad fans in any discussion, so your opposition looks unreliable or even crazy. Furthermore, why start off the video with a statement that seems designed to annoy people? The phrasing, "to my mind, in some ways, I think it's actually the best Fallout game of all," is a really weird thing to say. What John is essentially saying here is that Fallout 3 does some things better than any of the other games. As a statement, I can't do much with it until it's qualified and references are provided, but the specific wording of the phrase makes it sound like he's saying it's the best Fallout game.
Sorry, I really don't see it. The bit leading into "prepare your angriest comments now" seems more like John's attempt at humor. But even Tim Kaine, the creator of Fallout, admits
humor is very personal and very subjective.
For Creetosis not even to attempt to entertain this possibility tells me either he has a very limited understanding of humor, or he just doesn't think that this is a humorous comment in any context, which seems absurd since he himself says that this is partially a response to H-Bomber Guy, who had several other glib comments very similar to this. Either way, Creetosis does his best to argue that this attempt at humor is somehow a dog whistle or something along those lines to maybe virtue signal to Bethesda fanboys. And given the amount of time he devotes to deconstructing and recontextualizing these lines into something much more insidious than the reading I'm getting from it, tells me a little bit about his mindset going in. In fact, these are probably the worst interpretations someone could probably abstract from John's words here. I'm guessing this is why Creetosis is calling this
poisoning the well and being incredibly reductive about this discussion.
Because I am not even sure what he's trying to do with the next argument by questioning the phrasing of,
to my mind, in some ways, I think it's actually the best Fallout game of all.
Besides to call it weird and removing the "I think" from the phrase. This is something Creetosis commonly does throughout the 8-hour video. Interrupts to an excessive degree and taking large amount of time just to try to call in doubt the sincerity of some of the most mundane claims made by John with an excessive amount of information that barely relates to what John is even talking about in the video.
That I wasn't even making.
That's right, man. The straw man word fucking returns. I mean, I don't get how it's considered straw manning when I'm literally playing your clip and then responding to what you said in that clip. That's not straw manning. That's called responding to you as you fucking speak.
There we go. Like, he doesn't pull up the definition like this guy does, but he does take issue with how people use words like straw manning. So, kind of hypocritical.
Yeah. If he'd been paying attention to the video, he'd understand why we're bringing this up.
Yeah.
No, that's just Griffin's shtick. He likes to simplify what people are saying or talking about when he doesn't care about it, and usually also just generalizes people as some kind of no-life nerds.
It also feels like he just doesn't want to add anything to the discussion. He just came to talk shit.
Oh yeah,
that's what it seems like.
That's definitely what he's doing. It's kind of like Stark. With Lunir. Just joined to talk shit. Didn't really have anything to add.
Mention of discrediting or ridiculing something meant to
Understand what's being poisoned.
The term was first used.
Good? Oh my. Do they think this makes them look good? Oh my fucking god, man.
How does it make us look bad, though?
It doesn't.
Because we're pointing out... I can understand, like, there are some people who think, you think you're so smart bringing up the dictionary definitions. Like, I've got a few comments to that effect. It's like, no, he's using the word wrong, and we're pointing that out because it's fucking nonsense.
Yes, they aren't trying to prove that they're smart, just that I'm dumb. I also find it amusing that Brother Near 2.0 here just agrees with Creetosis, not really putting any thought into it, and it makes it seem like he's just doing this just to reflectively disagree with Griffin Gaming. Now, if I was to take a guess at why this criticism was levied at Creetosis, it's not just for using the dictionary definition, but really the excessive use of it that he uses. It seems absolutely no reason to actually read that whole paragraph when just the first few lines can actually convey the thought of the definition. This leads me into the next logical fallacy that Creetosis is guilty of, Gishgalpin, which is just trying to overwhelm people with so much information, it's hard to respond. Now, this is the last time I'm going to be bringing up logical fallacies, I promise, because they're not the most effective way to sort of do discussions or even response videos like this. Really, the only reason I did the whole logical fallacy thing before was to parody Creetosis' style in his video, which is just one of the many elements that he missed in my video that makes me think his media literacy isn't very good. You figured after I did that parody music video of him, he would get the fact that I am mocking him to a certain degree, just not directly using insults like he does. A more subtler sense of humor. But as I established, dude cannot recognize humor unless it takes the very particular form that he can understand. At least that's my theory on that. I did dial back the sort of parody aspect in the next two videos, but it's not like he covered either one of those. I wonder if that's why. This has made me come to realize recently that I might need to dial back my more subtle sense of humor with little tidbits thrown in there, since it's really something that does not seem to translate very well to many people. For example, the phrase that they've been trying to use to mock me, spiking the well can down the road. I really thought it would be obvious. I thought I set it up properly, but I guess you have to know about the dual meaning of the word for spike to be able to understand it and even perhaps find it funny. Maybe not when you're on the other end of it and its implications, but I don't even think they got that. If they did not convey that properly. Because it was clearly a straw man argument against John's point.
You was clearly a straw man argument. Jesus fucking Christ, this guy's voice.
I know, it's very bad.
And phrase theory about how people of Megaton get their food.
A straw man, sometimes written as straw man, is a form of argument and an informal fallacy of having the impression of refuting an argument, whereas the real subject of the argument was not addressed or refuted, but instead replaced with a...
I mean, we've already proven this man doesn't know what a fucking straw man argument is.
I like how selective Creetosis gets in our little conversations. He only brings up certain facts that suits his sort of delusional mindset. So, as for the claim when he says he did not strawman John, yes, John didn't literally say the exact words, Megaton eats mole rats, but it's heavily implied by the fact he refers the mole rats behind the town in the way he does.
So in the case of Megaton, the city has food because the one upside of the apocalypse is that wildlife is massive now, and there are plenty of mole rats right by the side of the town.
It's false. No way. Not this time. We created it. Not this time. No, not this time. It's totally made up. Pure fiction. It's fiction. It's fiction. We made it up. We made this one up. It's a made-up tale. It's a total fabrication. It never happened.
This is 100% false. It's fictitious. It's a total fabrication. It's made up. It does not align with reality, and it is something John absolutely, positively, 100% invented solely for the sake of defending this game from justified and accurate criticism.
Look how he frames it. He is wrong. No, there are mole rats on the side of the building. There's also other wildlife around. That is not incorrect.
Not only am I going to thoroughly prove it, but I'm going to use John's own video clip and the context behind it to help prove my point.
See how he focuses on a very small section. No, John did not heavily imply that the mole rats were the only food source. That is something that you focused on because you are autistic and delusional. I admitted in my own video, John's argument is not good. But this is not the place to argue that. This is a place to see how accurate to reality the claims he made on Brother Near's stream come to reality.
It's not a straw man
Yeah.
to take the exact argument someone made and argue against it.
How in the world was that directly responding to what John said? Again, Creetosis has to explain to his audience what John really meant with his words, and having to use John's footage to do that. I mean, Creetosis must be a freaking super genius to figure all this conspiracy level bullshit out. And that's after sending over 20 seconds of signaling to his audience how incorrect what John just said was wrong. This just struck me as incredibly deceptive. Hence me making that comment earlier to Creetosis about the Jonathan Franks clip, which he avoided answering.
Notice how he also constantly gives John...
Oh my god, he's making fun of you for doing the exact same thing he did to bring Halo back. Who would have thought?
Oh, it's just the
It's a Griffin for
he
you.
had. Well, it was never presented as such by John in the first place, but when it comes to anything I say, there is no such benefit of the doubt.
I wouldn't give it to you either.
This actually seems like a good time to bring up another one of our interactions in the comments section. See, during a back and forth we had, he accused me of being dismissive of his arguments, as if he wasn't dismissing my arguments in the video, because he just didn't like them. Such as when he claimed there's no proof that it doesn't rain in Fallout 3, despite this being an indisputable fucking fact.
So, even though it wasn't in my video, he brought up the rain argument. Now, I will admit this is a weak argument. So, despite remaking this video on John, he's going to hold on to this one weak argument from me.
In response, I had said that he had made it pretty clear he wasn't coming into this with good faith, that he was seeking to debunk the criticisms, to which he basically admitted.
So despite him remaking this video at least 2 separate times, in his video just covering my part 1 video, he uses a comment to disprove my credibility and try to build his case that I just can't take criticism of the game I love. I'm not even that dedicated to Fallout 3 personally, but he has to work up this profile in his mind. I wanted to take a look at 3 Fallout critics as a project, something he does not seem to get in his head, even though I wrote that in one of my comments. the comment we're about to see, cause he claims I'm just looking to debunk his criticism. I didn't miss Billy Cree's line, it's not relevant. There's nothing to back it up, it's worthless. I'm also dismissive of you because you're very clearly not coming into this with good faith. You're very clearly looking to debunk this criticism because it's against a thing you like, as evident by the thing you got wrong on the other video, and also criticize this game because you weren't paying attention to the video. Dude holds a grudge. Even Patrician TV they omitted that detail in this 4-hour video on me. Although, to Creed's credit, he admitted to it in this video.
He actually commented on my Fallout 3 analysis video first, claiming that I got some aspect of it wrong, but I explained to him that it was a what-if scenario, that something that could improve the game. And he apparently went back and re-listened and realized he got it wrong, but still doubled down that, oh, well, you should have worded it better.
Oh, that's retarded. I hate those people.
Yeah, and...
But he twisted that point around to use against me somehow. Okay, this is where he takes that I'm omitting to looking to debunk his criticism. I'm saying, who cares if I am looking to debunk this criticism? I'm quoting him very clearly here. It's not a concern of mine. Good criticism will hold up under scrutiny, in my opinion. Bad criticism gets this sort of reaction.
Yeah, that seems to be his entire point behind all of this. When I posted my comment in response to his video, in which I went very into detail about what he was...
Wow, that's a lot of words. Too bad I'm not reading them.
That's basically what Pagan got in response.
Damn.
Because he gave, this is the whole point Pagan is making here, is I came in with good faith, with criticism against your video, and you wrote me off because I'm not Creetosis.
Let's talk about bad faith Pagan. This is the comment. So he claims he came in with good faith. So I thought I would do a response video to his comment.
So I shouldn't be surprised that a video that isn't even 15 minutes long, talking about a video that is 8 hours long, would be disingenuous and full of incorrect information.
Does any of this sound like he came in with good faith?
And you wrote me off because I'm not Creetosis.
Is because I was fully taking...
God, he pulled a bean sprout.
However, him and one of his staunch defenders seemed to take more issue with the fact that I was commenting rather than you, Cree. Like, they expected you to be the one making a comment, and the fact I was making one of my own volition is proof of you being a coward somehow. It's like no one else is allowed to have autonomy and do things because they want to. They both completely dismissed my criticism because I wasn't the person they wanted me to be. It showed me they really weren't interested in arguing in good faith.
I give him a lengthy response to his comment, addressing his concerns directly. He's taking what Sacred G says. Why are you doing Creetosis work for him? Why can't he comment on this? He responds back to Sacred G. Here's my comment back before I made the video on his comment. Okay, I'm going to admit to a retard moment here in this comment, so I'll just say this like it's meant to be said. To Pagan, okay, I'm going to do a video on it, talking about the comment. Or do you want to go over it with me in a stream? Was going to stream it anyways, so might as well just explain why I said what I did in this video. But what the hell, join in VC, or if you want to bitch at me from chat, I'll be going 11 Eastern Standard Time. I don't care if no one's watching. You be good faith, I be good faith. You want to think this has nothing to do with Creetosis? Fine. I think that's bullshit. But put up or shut up. Back up your claims with evidence, not accusations. Yeah, I know, I really should have reworded this for clarity, but even as badly worded as this was, Pagan should have actually, responded back like he did with Sacred G if he really wanted to engage with me in good faith. Now, maybe I stepped over the line with some of my language, but that would be an opinion of his, and I don't know how he came to this whole elaborate thing that I wanted Creetosis to comment on this. Still, that's perfectly fine. Pagan can perceive reality how he ever wants to. But to try to use this as a point against me, that I didn't want to actually get his feedback when I did a whole video after a comment and a live stream, taking his criticism very seriously and seeing if I did any crucial things wrong. I really think this comes across as either dishonest or, like Creetosis, delusional.
Place in the discussion, but we are looking at Fallout 3 present and forward more than backwards. Don't come into my comments bashing me for enjoying this game because it isn't the old one. And please, for the love of God, do not make an 8-hour response video that I won't watch because I have nice things to say about it. Seriously, that was a pretty bonkers thing to see happen to another dude. I feel bad for that guy. A lot of what I said about the stability...
Can we just be real here? Why can't dudes just enjoy shit from other games in peace?
These are just some samples of how people regard Creetosis' 8-hour video. Now, Creetosis himself isn't above mocking people he believed to be stupid. So my video, with its light mockery elements, should not be a problem. Unfortunately, that seems to go completely over this man's head. And I find it funny the lack of awareness of both Creetosis and Brother Nier. Frankly, when I started off on this journey, the only thing I knew was H-Bomber guys, Fallout 3 is garbage, and here's why. Going in to look into more criticism in depth, I came across a lot more. It gave me a better understanding of certain issues people have with it. There are a few things like Little Lamplight that I can agree with the criticism on that. But frankly, some of these other videos and some of the other shit being said is just simply taken to absurd levels, so parodying it to a certain degree seemed like a must, especially with Creetosis' video. But these guys, I don't want to say they're in an echo chamber, but I'm thinking they're rather limited in their scope. As for Brother Nier 2.0, who the hell even wanted to be part of Griffin's Discord, or his posse, or his fans? That thought is inconceivable to me. When I heard about Griffin Gaming years ago, I'm like, oh, okay, this guy doesn't think. He's just a trash talker who's Leafy 2.0. He's more than that. I am simplifying it, but frankly, Griffin Gaming has never been that high up. Hell, even Under the Mayo and Synthetic Man are higher in my book when it comes to actually giving some solid analytical data, and that's just sad. The fact that Brother Nier and his friends took a shot at freaking Griffin Gaming and failed is just laughable to me. And his reaction afterwards is still sort of spurging out about that in even this video. And given this real world comparison,
that's a red flag right there. He's comparing a video game event to a real life tragedy.
This is kind of a red flag because if you're comparing the kind of crater a plane crash would make, realistically, you do have to compare it to something. The big issue here is that he just got everything wrong about this. It's a different sized plane, and the crater is nowhere near as big as the crater of Megaton would be.
aside from Nier's freaking red flag comment, which I find actually very telling about Nier's character, he pretty much is a moralistic asshole who wants to use any little indication to sort of judge people with. Setting that aside, I'm not saying this is a one-to-one comparison. And again, Patrician TV's thoughts on that particular issue is, they don't understand that the structure of a bomber versus a commercial airliner is quite different. So it seems their original video on me didn't take this into account, but it seems that Creetosis has sort of updated his opinion on this. That makes me wonder if, someone shared this thread with him. I know there was someone sharing stuff Creetosis was saying in his server on Patrice's server. So it's completely understandable if a little bit of vice versa went past. That being said, him revising some of his arguments in this sort of discussion about Griffin Gaming slandering him, And using those points in this discussion, sort of talk about the original version of the video, seems a little shady to me, but who knows? Plus, it seems in previous iterations of the video, this argument was not in Creetosis' video. In fact, someone he cites, but doesn't cite for giving him this insight when Father Elijah talks about that infamous Reddit post addressing the first version of Fallout 3 isn't as good as you think.
As for the crater thing, I have to say that both you and Creetosis didn't fully do your homework. But I did, because, like I said, I replayed the game, and apparently you guys missed this, but if you talk to Manya, who is the wife of Nathan, she will tell you the history of the town and how it was founded. Apparently, the crater wasn't caused by the bomb falling, it was caused by a plane crash, which was carrying the bomb.
This is very easy to say when you've made several drafts of this and you actually didn't address the fact that I was using this real world example that proves certain things in video games could be realistic or not is a problem for him. Probably because he's a moralist jackass who wants to judge people quickly as they can and based on as little evidence as they can. Even Creetosis sort of pushes back on this idea, but he sort of gives in to this because Creed just wants to find a reason to hate his critics. And any narrative he can spend in his own delusional head to give him that thought is probably very convenient for him. And considering what I'm going to be covering later, it makes a lot of sense that he's going off the deep end on this and joining Brother Nier in this stupid lack of logic.
My biggest issue with it is that he's just comparing a video game event to a real life tragedy.
Yeah, that
like why bring that up at all? That just feels like a false equivalency almost.
It's a false equivalence because the specs of the planes are different, which would result in different creators. It does seem in poor taste to compare a real life tragedy to something in a video game, but he's not comparing the actual tragedy element. It's the size of the crater. And like I said, if you are comparing realistically, you do kind of need to compare it to something. And unfortunately, those are the options available for creators a plane crash would make.
Yeah, I just felt like that was in poor taste to just bring it up to begin with, especially if they're just talking about a video game.
Yeah.
In my experience, Vincent Martin is an obsessive and pathetic loser who tries to gain attention through causing drama with people. Having dealt with him far more than I'd have liked has been quite revealing of his character, and he does not leave a good impression. He seems to hyperfixate on people, then seeks for ways to knock them down a peg, through any dishonest or disingenuous means he can, and he has no issue with removing critical context from situations or statements you've made in order to make you look bad, so he could claim some kind of win over you, and he'll keep pestering you until you get annoyed with him, at which point he'll start claiming you're toxic for not wanting to put up with his inane bullshit. He has now started this process with Brother Nier, by taking a joke he had made with a friend and twisting it to smear him, then running off to someone who is beefing with Nier to get the attention he so desperately craves. This is not someone who cares about right or wrong, but someone who cares about validation.
Only showing the context you think is important again, Creetosis. It seems I have to break this down from the beginning. So, just like how Brother Nier tried to pull mischief into his video on Griffin Gaming, even if it wasn't intentional, I got pulled into this drama with Griffin Gaming and Creetosis and Brother Nier, I guess. No, it was a lot more indirect, and I laughed about it to a few people, but other than that, I did not say much about it, publicly at least. Probably the most relevant thing I said can be found in the comments section of Brother Nier's video. Nier's video has a good message to it. Bigger content creators shouldn't spread untruths about smaller creators who don't have as big of a platform to defend themselves against such claims. People might just believe what is stated in the video without thinking or looking into the matters for themselves. Like normal, this has a double meaning. And it seems for me, it's sort of come to pass. If this road breach comment that just came out of the blue when I was commenting on his video popped out of the ether, I wonder who told him just to not deal with me. Not that I brought any of this up in my comment at all. Just because I was talking about Brother Nier and other crap. Yeah. Still, the fact that they didn't get the irony of this statement is just funny to me. After this, I made fun of Creetosis on Twitter, and Brother Nier jumped in to White Knight for him. Whole bunch of bullshit, some back and forth discussion, more insults and accusations from Brother Nier than anything else, but I just left it at that. Then much later, when I saw Nier mentioned in a comment from Tipster, the commentary community's biggest being the key word here, lolcow or target to make fun of in that community, I made a joke about Brother Nier, and that started another back and forth. And then, since it seemed like he was having fun bullying me, you know, with the ratios, Keffel's like bullshit, I played along for a bit, but eventually I thought I would end his fun by bullying him back rather hard. And it worked quite well. When you're trying to bully people online, you shouldn't have a lot of shit online that people can sort of just be like, oh, is this you? If he wants to freak out about it on stream, like he did, how I knew about this vendetta against Sean the Legend, which I'll be bringing up soon. Fine. I live by the principle, if you're gonna talk shit, prepare to get hit. Not my fault. You have more shit out there that you're embarrassed by than I do. Finally, the last little scuffle we had online that brought about this video in the end. This last time was really started by someone doing a horrible response on my video on the discourse about J.K. Rowling, with my primary example being Kim Josh-un. And it came down to a matter of the cowardness of these gamers who are totally against the boycott, but still say J.K. Rowling is a transphobe. I'm fine if people feel that way, but it just irritates me they say that without any knowledge or going into that details, but that's a personal issue of mine. Still, it cut out a lot of context. Even without that, some of his response was just laughably bad. I retweeted where he promoted that on Twitter, calling it like I saw it. And again, Brother Nier had to go for the own. Now, I thought about leaving it alone, not responding. But I did have in my mind that he was sort of leading a small campaign against someone in his small gaming community called Sean the Legend for defending Lolicon. Yeah, worst thing in the world, guys. I've been keeping up with the drama, but since I really don't care for Lolicon myself and really find it a bit weird and sus, I didn't say much besides it was funny that Brother Nier was leading this campaign against the Lolicons. Still, if there is one thing on the internet that I dislike the most, it's moralists. Right-wing moralists, left-wing moralists, and apparently video game moralists now exist. It really doesn't matter. I just don't like them on general principle. I think most of them are full of shit and try to use those supposed morals and ethics that they talk about to shit on other people, and they don't hold them themselves. The double standards among most of those people are just so blatantly obvious to me. But that's a personal opinion, Now, as for these tweets that Creetosis brings up and sort of started this whole sort of bullshit video where Brother Nier gets a whole bunch of people for testimonies to, I guess, Brother Nier's character, which is sort of funny since one person's like shitting on me the whole time. Creetosis thanks Nier for giving him the platform. Now I have to explain all my reasoning for this. Believe it or not, normalizing sexual humor is just one of the methods that groomers use to sort of desensitize that subject matter to the people that they tend to groom. Now, it's not proof positive of anything, but doing this is a red flag in my opinion. And if Kim is so blatant to make this the pinned tweet on his Twitter, then you just have to wonder, what sort of jokes are they making in private? Now, are these just really jokes, or is there something more to it? I have no freaking clue about that. With that being said, it's probably not the case for Brother Nier. I do hate using psychological terms, but I know enough about it to know that he fits the bill for narcissist, and that could completely explain that. Wonder if he's taken a test for any of those mental illnesses, because it really has to be a mental illness, or he's just really dumb or uneducated to not realize this sort of thing is associated with grooming. Also, grooming isn't particularly associated with the dreaded pedo word. Grooming can take all sorts of forms among adults, among ideology. Grooming just about instilling a certain ideology in other people. Sort of like trying to convince someone to be a carpenter. In Brother Nier's case, he seems to be networking among all these gaming commentary bros on a small level to sort of shift them, push them towards a certain direction or target in his case. Because when he gets his groove on, like with the Griffin Gaming Slanders Creetosis case, lots of videos get made on that subject matter. Again, it seems his name or his video, his stream on it, is mentioned in a lot of these videos that are coming out on Sean the Legend. Seems he probably got Zero Needs Coffee and even Griffin Gaming into this bandwagon, although Griffin Gaming might have groomed him into this sort of ideology, so to speak, but that's neither here nor there. As I said, grooming is not necessarily a sexual thing. It's just about trying to convince people more impressionable than you of certain things. Keffels supposedly groomed a whole bunch of children with the Catboy Ranch server to transition. That wasn't for Keffel's own sexual desires, at least I hope not, just to get more trans kids out there in the world. Now, even if I do think lolicon is weird and it's sort of a red flag to be wary of with those sort of people, there are a ton of more examples of pedos coming out of other communities, such as Minecraft, than the actual lolicon community. Sure, they might just hide it better than the rest of the communities, but I go off of actual evidence and all of Turkey Tom videos discussing degenerates. There was only one who was really into lolicon out of all his videos that I saw. A few manga-kuns, but from what I know, they weren't even into lolicon. But it really annoys me when anyone gangs up on one particular person, even someone I don't particularly like. So I don't like people ganging up on anyone in particular. So someone who has pretty much a whole community doing videos and talking shit on them, yeah, I contacted him, messaged him. I'm like, oh, look at this funny thing I just noticed. Isn't that funny? Thinks lolicon is horrible, but he's fine with making sexual jokes to minor. It's so funny. And it is sort of funny. In my mind, it's a double standard and very foolish. So, of course, I would give him the information to, yeah, let's use Nier's word for it, people bullying him. And it is perfectly ethical and moral in my book to do so, because I don't like that sort of shit. But then again, I also have a bit of a problem with moralists, as I already stated. I have my bias. Everyone has them. Some think lolicons are pedos. I think bullies who gang up on people are cowards. I'm not going to deny anyone their opinions. And frankly, there seems to be some moralists trying to hide something by sort of targeting a certain people. Take, for example, someone I covered a year or two ago. It's been quite a while. Along with a couple of other YouTubers. I was like the third person to make a video on it from my knowledge. But that person was a YouTuber named Neuralities who was moralizing about the loli-like designs in anime. Wasn't even a hentai. And it was discovered that she actually drew some young anime boys in sexually suggestive drawings herself.
And this is a clear-cut case of Noralities sexually objectifying a 16-year-old child. However, this goes even further. Noralities would also make extremely suggestive comments towards these young 16-year-old children, stating that she was thirsty for Bakugo. And I'm sure we all know the connotation that the word thirst or thirsty is used in when relating to characters in anime, which is of course a sexualized manner. So regardless of what you think, this is a clear-cut example of Noralities sexualizing child characters despite being someone who dislikes the practice in anime. In other words, she's a hypocrite. If you want to actually check her Tumblr to check these images for yourself, however, you'll find that she has actually deleted these images.
This is what I mean. People who moralize tend to have shit they're hiding in the closet, in my opinion. It's not a fact. It just seems like something that happens ever so often. I really wasn't planning to include all this context and expand on my thoughts, but since it seems if I don't explain my reasons in at least good amount of detail, people will start trying to invent the reasons for my actions, like Creetosis keeps trying to do when he doesn't have a fucking clue in his head what anyone thinks. At least that's my opinion on that. Well, I think I made this video long enough so far. If you want me to expand on any of my thoughts I have in this video, write them down below. With that said, I'm done.